health and the capability to fast, because there are many who are in the hospitals or at the homes, but due to medicinal reasons they are unable to fast. Indeed, it is a blessing for the people who are capable of fasting, and they should value that blessings given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Usually, when I speak about this topic of being grateful on this opportunity to be blessed with the fasting, I recall a hadith in which Imam alayhi salatu wasalam says that if a person would to know that what is hidden in the fasting, a person would always pray to Allah to continue this fasting for the entire year, not only 30 days. And deliberately, before we move forward to our theme, I have decided to speak for a few minutes about the importance of the holy month of Ramadan, because when I arrived on 15th of Ramadan, that was the birthday of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. And our first speech was focusing on his biography, and then onward we started right away the theme of the letter, and then Majalis of Amirul Mu'mineen Laylatul Qadr. So unfortunately didn't get a chance to speak about the importance of this month. Indeed, all of you are aware, but as Quran says, فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That remind each other, and the reminding has a benefit for the believers. Therefore, as now we are approaching to the end of this month, and right when you think about that we are bidding farewell with this wonderful month, it really makes your heart sadden. And it was the practice of Imams that during the final days of the month of Ramadan, they would long for this month, they would start missing this month, that how wonderful and blessed this month. We have a dua of our fourth holy Imam. So the reason why I have mentioned this is to remind ourselves of that dua. It is easy to find duas.org. So it is called Dua to bid farewell with the month of Ramadan. So interestingly, that when Imam bids farewell with this month, he bids farewell with the month as he is bidding farewell with a living, talking, walking individual, saying salams and expressing his love, his emotions that I'm going to miss you. Usually we recite this dua during the last night of the month of Ramadan, but then the opportunity is taken away from us. So I wanted to remind ourselves that these are the best nights to recite that dua. That still we have 3, 4 nights available, so we would value this. Slowly read this dua of Sahifa Sajadiyah and see that how our Imam is telling us about the importance of this month. And another very important phrase which needs to be recited during these days and nights is, "Oh Allah, if you have not forgiven us so far during this month of Ramadan, forgive us during the rest of the days and nights." Indeed, the Laylatul Qadr, or the night of destiny, or the night of power, Alhamdulillah, we were able to do a little bit worship, but still there is opportunity. It is said the eve of Eid is comparable to the night of Qadr. And in fact, we have a hadith that every odd night of the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan, there is a possibility for the night to be a Laylatul Qadr, a night of destiny. Therefore, you see that our Sunni brothers, they pay a lot of attention towards these 10 nights, especially the final nights, especially the 27th. We do have some of the riwayat speaking about the Laylatul Qadr being in the last 10 odd nights of the month of Ramadan. But as I mentioned, that most probability is for 23rd, but 27th is one of the nights in which we need to stay engaged in salat, dua, and worship. And very similarly, 29th night, the night of Eid is also very important night. So we need to be mindful. And I would suggest this right away that if you are planning to have a Chandra type of thing, this night is the night of Ibadat. Do not plan anything in which you are engaged in any activity which is taking us towards the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The entire essence of the month of Ramadan is to purify ourselves, to build ourselves, to make ourselves. And it is unfortunate that many Muslims they strive a lot throughout the month of Ramadan, but during the night of Eid, they perform a lot of evil and sins, and sometimes it's very sad to see that. So prepare yourselves from right now that as we are getting closer to the end of the month of Ramadan, that we are bidding farewell with a month which came to us with rahmah wal barakah wal maghfirah. The hadith of the Prophet of Islam, Ahmad al-Mustafa Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says that قَدْ أَقْبَلَ إِلَيْكُمْ شَهْرُ اللَّهِ بِالْبَرَكَةِ وَالرَّحْمَةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ. So it has come with three things to us. It has brought three things to us. Rahmah, wal-barakah, wal-maghfirah. Did we receive that or not? So this is the important thing. Before its arrival, Prophet told us that this month is bringing these three packages to you. A guest is coming to you. You are invited to the feast. وَهُوَ شَهْرٌ دُعِيتُمْ إِلَى ضِيَافَةِ اللَّهِ. This is the month in which you are invited to the feast of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the month أَنْفَاسُكُمْ فِيهِ تَسْبِيحٌ وَنَوْمُكُمْ فِيهِ عِبَادَةٌ. Your breathing is the form of glorification during this month. And your sleep, to this extent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on its feet during this month. This month is a form of ibadah. So, brothers and sisters, during these final days and nights of the month of Ramadan, I would advise myself and I would extend this advice to all of you that we need to value these 4-5 remaining days and nights. We need to be engaged in the recitation of Quran first and foremost, because one of the important teachings of the Prophet in regards to the worship of the month of Ramadan, he says the first thing is fasting and the second is Quran. Tilawat the Quran, we need to read, we need to understand, and then we need to make a conviction that we need to practice on the teachings of Quran as well. And it is said, just one more hadith to conclude, that anyone who is reciting Quran during this month, what kind of reward that person would get? For each verse a person recites during the month of Ramadan, the reward of the completion of the Quran is given as this person is completing a Quran, reciting the entire Quran in other months. So we need to be very mindful, we need to be very motivated during these 5 days which we have in our hands. Ponder upon the teachings of the verses of Quran. Talking about this letter yesterday, when we reached to the point, it was a little bit in rush yesterday because topic was very vast, but I would like to recap before we move forward. That Amir al-Mu'mineen spoke about this letter, that why he wrote this letter to his son. Once he's mentioning that he did that because he was mindful of his own state. First of all, that he said that I'm growing older and I need to be energetic to advise and to guide my children. Second thing, he says that no one knows about the time of the death. I need to make that letter I need to make that will before I pass away. And third thing, which is very important, he says that naturally the temptations of this world, they will overcome the youth. And before my child is attacked by satanic temptations and has changed his way, I need to move forward. I need to be proactive to guide my son. Otherwise, what would happen? He gave a very beautiful allegorical example. He says that either I grow older or my son, who is inflicted with the forces of passions or mischief of the world, overtake you, making you like a stubborn camel. So naturally, we have spoken about that. This letter is extended to us. It's not specifically speaking about Imam al-Mujtaba, but to teach us that how we need to raise our children, what is the best time to advise. So from this point, we reach to a point where we discuss that nowadays we see that people are getting married late, and therefore that connection between the children and the parents is not that strong. And very similarly, the other temptations of this world, let alone a child gets preyed of the shaitanic temptations, we see the parents are under the attack of shaitan. That is one of the problems. Therefore, one of the recommendations of Islam, I brought that topic up yesterday and we spoke a little bit about that in a very rush manner, so I will move forward by recapping it, that getting married. It is one of the recommendations of Islam, and sometimes it becomes wajib where a person has fear to be indulged in haram. So then it has become wajib for that person to protect his iman or her iman. It is for both men and women. And I mentioned this, that it is as we have ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. So do not think marriage is something which takes away the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, this is for the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, I mentioned that that reason requires us to have few criteria. And Islam speaks about the criteria of faith, and being a religious person is the first and foremost criteria. And in fact, a very explicit hadith of the Prophet says, do not look at the wealth, position, status, or the beauty of apparent beauty, like face complexion, color complexion, like physical posture. Do not give importance to that. Give importance to iman, faith. So that will bring, interesting hadiths, Prophet says, Allah will gather up all these things for him. If you marry either man to a woman or a woman to a man, for faith, Allah will bring beauty and wealth, inshallah, with that. Morality is very important. We spoke about that. Nobility of the family, importance of the genes and its impact on the offspring and upcoming generations. We gave the example of Amir al-Mu'mineen's marriage with al-Baneen, explicitly finding a woman to have a child who is brave. So it is the best if a person finds a spouse from the noble family. Reasoning and intellectuality, we spoke about that when Islam speaks about the intellectuality and reasoning, it's not clever, it's not that a person is clever, but it is that a person is wise and smart intellectually, in terms of the hadith of sixth Imam, that he says, Allah's worship is understood with that intellect, and paradise is achieved. So, and trickery and mockery and cunning, as Imam was asked about the smartness or the cleverness of Muawiyah, he said that it was shibhul aql, it was not actual aql. So the last two criteria, we were unable to speak about that, and I mentioned that it has a lot to speak about. The fifth one is the compatibility. And I believe that is the most important criteria for someone to find a spouse. So Islam has put a lot of emphasis on that. Quran has a verse, the Surah Nur. The impure women are for the impure men, and the impure men are for the impure women, and the pure women are for the pure men, and the pure men are for the pure women. Surah An-Nur, chapter 26, verse 26, and chapter 24, verse 26. Question: what is the meaning of pure? And why Islam has put a lot of emphasis on that? The verse of Quran, lil khabisina wal khabisat. So Quran explicitly uses the word khabith and khabithat. What's the reason behind that? And what is the implementation of an impure woman? What is the meaning? So when we speak about the impurity, mainly it is the corruption of the soul. It's not the physical impurity. When Quran speaks about this khabas, that, and we use that word in Urdu as well, in Farsi and in Arabic as well, Quran has used this word, that shows the corrupted soul, the ill soul. So we need to know, because sometimes what happens, especially our youth, they start the college, university, some of them, when they come across the boys and the girls and they see that they are nice people and they come up, why can we not marry them? They are very good people. So they look very good in their character, their morality, and their akhlaq. So now this issue of compatibility is very important. It's not that usually when we speak about the compatibility, the first thing comes to our mind is the language, culture, social status, or the preferences. Maybe these are some of the examples of the compatibility. But when Islam speaks about the compatibility, Islam speaks about the faith, iman, and the purity of the soul. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran speaks about the pure soul, there are certain categories of the nafs. Nafse lawama is the one which usually we have, that this is a complaining soul. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chapter 13 speaks about the very first verse, the temptation of the soul. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. نَفْسِ أَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. That soul which is having temptation for you to go and do sins. So that is the corruption of the soul. So you need to see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every human being on pure and pak fitra. We have a hadith which says that every child is born kullu mawludin yuladu ala al-fitra. And hadith does not say that kullu mawludin yulad ala al-Islam, that every child is born on Islam, but hadith says every child is born on the natural instinct, on the nature. أَبَوَاهُمَا يُهَوِّدَانِهِ وَيُمَصِّرَانِهِ وَيُمَجِّسَانِهِ. These are the parents of a child who would make a child a Christian, a Jew, or a Zoroastrian. This hadith is, brothers and sisters, very important. We have a phenomenon in the society, especially in this modern world, in this Western country, that we should not bound our children, we should not force them to accept any religion. It's a very, very opaque statement. There is illusion in it. You need to understand that it looks fascinating that you are giving a choice. Sometimes you will hear it from Muslims. Oh, I give the choice to my child to choose his or her religion, because if she or he chooses his or her own religion, then she is stronger in the faith. These arguments, these statements, in a superficial manner, they look very good, very pleasing. But consequently, you do not promote any religion. You leave them alone. You say that it's your choice. You study, you read, and then whatever religion you choose, and you are hoping that your child would choose the religion of Islam, and the child will be very strong. But what happens? Most of the times, We see the parents, they left their children on their own to grow on their organic pace in the society. They do not choose to be a Muslim. Majority of the cases, you will see there are some researches done that in the scenarios where parents, they left children to choose the religion, they did not selected Islam as a religion. The reason is, answer is very clear, that society is asking you not to influence them, not to tell them anything, let them understand on the pace of their own organic understanding. But at the same time, in the society, there are many hidden and visible forces who are influencing them in the society. So if they are growing up in a vacuum, listen to these words, these are very important. Do not be deceived with all these slogans of the freedom of the choice and all this. You say freedom of choice, but 24/7, the cartoons you are playing from the TV, the curriculum you have in the school or the society, either they are biased to a religion or they are biased against religiosity. You want them to be secular. So what kind of an objective approach it is, unbiased approach it is. So if you want children to grow with their own choice and objectivity, then do not influence them against religion. So you see in the society, they turn the TV on, there is influence in the cartoons, in the movies, no matter if it's 3 or 4 years old child. Nowadays, the challenges which we are having against the values of Islam, that you are telling them to a child who is just 2 or 3, hardly 2 or 3 years old, and parents are putting a cartoon in front of that child, and child is having a teddy bear's cartoon watching, and you see that a teddy bear has a mom, Emma, and then a mom, another mom, no father, and they are having a relationship, for instance, Christina. So they are influencing them that yes, there is a possibility of the relationship in the household. So you did not let me to tell my child that the best form of the society is where there is reproductivity, where there is a family union, and offspring of the human race are there, and that takes place only with the marriage of a man with a woman. So, but you are influencing. So these are a few examples that our children and anyone's children, not only ours, we see in the society, even many Christians, many Jews, many followers of other religions, and even the people who are secular, they would say that the society now has become biased. All the information we have is dragging us towards an agenda. Therefore, brothers and sisters, moving backward to what we are discussing, that compatibility issue of the husband and wife is having one common ground in terms of the purity of soul, because Allah has created that soul pure, tayyibat. And the tendency of that soul is to be worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be obedient, following a divine religion. But if there is no influence, but if there are influences, then a child, hadith says, every child is born on fitrah, and it's the parents who make a child Christian, Jew, or the Zoroastrian. And nowadays I would say more than the parents, internet, more than the parents, the school, more than the parents, the society, peer pressure. They take the children from here to there. They make the children following a religion. Many of the cases in the society where we see that children, they are influenced by their peers, and they go against their own will. Many of the times just because of the peer pressure. Because they cannot speak in the household, because the parents, they either do not have understanding, or they do not have time to listen or talk to them, or they do not have the receptivity. So they talk to their peers, and peers are pressuring them, no matter it is the matter of the choice of a pronoun, or at a greater level, the gender choice, or it is the choice of a religion. So the peers influence them a lot. Therefore, what is my responsibility? everything is getting summarized, that I cannot leave my child on the society and sit home to make my son or daughter to make the best of the choice. No, I need to be very proactive because everyone else is teaching what is against my values, what is against the values of my religion. I need to be super active what they are going to teach my child in the school, what cartoon they are going to watch, what movies they are going to watch, what society they are going to live in, who are their friends, who are their peers. Brothers and sisters, during this time, in every time, we have a hadith. I have mentioned you some of the hadiths, but especially during this time, we need to be very active. It's very hard to fight against these social media and all these means they have. So therefore, going back to that step, because it comes with that compatibility at the time of marriage. One of the compatibilities we need to know that if I am getting married to a spouse, so what are her preferences? And if a sister is getting married to a husband, what are her preferences? Are they on the same page? Because naturally, when children are born, if they have differences in their opinions, differences in their thoughts, there will be fight. There will be argument in the household. And who will suffer? The child would suffer. The family would suffer. Therefore, compatibility issue is that you have same ideas, you have respect for the same traditions. So eating biryani or not biryani is not the compatibility. It's times are gone that, okay, I eat beef nehari and I want a wife who can cook a wonderful beef nehari. And she loves the chicken nehari, always an argument. No, nehari has to be beef, nehari has to be chicken. So those days are gone. So these are not the very important compatibility issue. I told you social and cultural issues are there, but more important things are the value system, the religious value, the cultural value, the social values, especially the values to raise your children, value to raise yourselves. Inshallah, later, if I had enough time, I do not have more than 10 minutes. Tomorrow, I will speak about this issue as well, upbringing of the child, how to raise godly child. What does it take to raise a godly child? We'll speak about that. The first place of the training, the first school is the household of the child. The first school, the first learning place is the household of a child, not a school. Therefore, when the household is formed, we need to be very careful that they are compatible to each other. They share the same values. I had a list of almost 14 items, which usually the counselors who perform marital counselings. In fact, this is one of the things which I would highly recommend, that premarital counseling. Many of the times, and this was one of the things I also wanted to speak about, that how to propose and what are the best ways to propose. Many of the boys and girls, they do not know if they know someone, they are inclined towards that individual, how to proceed with. So Islam has given us the criteria. We have examples from the lives of the prophets and Imam. We have a very clear example of the Mu'mineen Bibi Khadija Salamullah alayha and the marriage of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That proposal is right in the contradiction of what cultural values we have nowadays. So Islam shows us that both ways are right. A woman can propose or a man can propose, although she proposed in a very excellent, respectful manner through her friend, but the proposal came from Sayyidah Khadija. Very similarly, if a girl or a sister is inclined towards a boy, so she should speak to the parents, and parents needs to be receptive to that. Very similarly for the boy. The day and age we are living in, take this as a blessing, that if your child has come to you and has expressed their love to someone, that they want to get married. This is the best thing. Where we see in the society, majority of the people, they establish the illegal in terms of Islamic terminology, ghair shari relationship, and then they come and they tell. So you need to be connected with your children, especially when they are mature. Ask them if they like someone, if they have plans for getting married. Very similarly for sisters. And you know what happens many of the times, marriages they go fail. The reason is that they did not agree, the husband and wife did not agree to that relationship because it was due to the parents. So parents asked, if you ask the parents, did you ask them? Yes, we asked and they were agreeable. No, but you did not give the choice. So right from the age of maturity, 15, 16, it's already too late. In this society where you see that children are, or you are better aware than the situation, how what's going on in the middle schools and the high schools. So I'm not talking about the community. Don't take me wrong. But they live in the same society. They go in the same school where we have like 13 years old, 12 years old becoming mothers. And my child goes in the same school district. So the classes they have right from the third grade, fourth grade. So all things are told to them. I feel embarrassed when I want to talk to my son. Why? When my son or my daughter, they are learning everything from the school. From them, the best is I give them the guidelines. So I establish that relationship. So, brothers and sisters, that compatibility which I was speaking about comes from this point that when you are married, your focus is to establish a good, godly, divine family. And for that, you need to share some of the values. It has happened that many of the times people are married, a couple is married, and even 10 years, they are not willing to have a child. And husband has a complaint, and or wife, vice versa. I'm not favoring anyone, but in many scenarios it has happened. I still have my residency. I still need to find a job. I have to do a postdoc. I have to do this and that. All the times, there are reasons. Be very mindful that when you are getting married, you need to discuss these things. As I was saying, that one of the best way is having premarital counseling sessions with a qualified person, a scholar, or your parents. Ask them, because Islam has given this permission in certain limits and the boundaries. This is another thing which usually youth they ask: is it okay for me to talk to a girl, or for a girl, is it okay for me to talk to a boy before marriage? Yes, Islam has given a permission to a certain limit, that in a controlled environment, just to explore seriously. If you have a serious intention to get married, to select a spouse, Islam has given you this choice, that speak to each other. If parents are there, that is the best. But even if you have permission from the parents, that is a must, that if you are talking to each other, the permission of the parents is a must. And parents needs to be accommodative to that. They need to accommodate that setting. But it's not that you talk to each other for 6 months and a year. It has happened. मौलाना अभी भी बात कर रहे हैं, 2 साल तो हो गए, हम बस गए थे, ज्यादा नहीं, बाली तक गए थे इंडोनेशिया, तो हम शादी करना चाहते हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता. So if you have a serious intention, then proceed with that and figure out that is there compatibility there or not. You won't find a perfect match. I'm telling you, no one would find a perfect match except Marsum. Because there is no heaven on the earth. Perfect match is in the heavens or for Ahlul. Therefore, I mentioned this hadith on the bottom. Perfect match is even for Imam Ali. You know, many of the women of the wives of the prophets and imams. Imam al-Mujtaba salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He was given poison by his own wife. That shows us a reality that this place, this world, yarhamkumullah, this world is a difficult world. So look towards the best of the compatibility things. So I think we are running out of time. So this is the topic for tomorrow. Just have a sneak peek. Tomorrow we'll discuss how to raise a godly child. So when a marriage takes place, I would summarize just by emphasizing on this point when your children are ready for the marriage. So have a counseling session with them initially, and when you are proposing someone, try to have. There are many things which needs to be disclosed. Many of the times. So now in this society, everyone is majority of the people they are educated. So honesty is the best policy. Sometimes things are not disclosed later, understood. So then the marriage goes bad. Very similarly, priorities, very similarly, compatibilities. As I told you, sometimes you won't find the ideal match, but talking to each other, having a counselor between you will remove many barriers in that. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during these moments of the acceptance of dua. Ya Allah, forgive our major and minor sins, Ya Allah. O Allah, have your mercy upon all of us, Ya Allah. O Allah, have your mercy upon our parents if they are deceased. O Allah, raise their ranks near Ahlul Bayt, Ya Allah. O Allah, the people who are sick, give them the quickest divine recovery, Ya Allah. O Allah, people who are destitute, O Allah, help them in their lives, Ya Allah. O Allah, help us to be successful in our trials and tribulations, Ya Allah. O Allah, we pray to you, especially for the acceptance of our fast, du'as, recitation of Quran, Ya Allah. O Allah, if we are not forgiven yet, O Allah, forgive us in this moment, Ya Allah. O Allah, we pray to you for the hastening and reappearance of Imam of our time. O Allah, make us among his supporters and companions, Ya Allah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. آمين يا رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Please recite one time Surah Al-Hamd with 3 times Surah Ikhlas for all of your marhumin, shuhada, sulaha, ulama, mujtahideen, especially the deceased family members of the sponsors of tonight's iftar with a salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم